Final section here is we take a general look at the 23 games so far. I want to look at the key players and who's played the most important roles there. And first of all, to do so, I'll take a glance at appearances. So top 5 appearances at the club for this season, as you would expect. Joe Hart's in there. He's got 21 appearances. All 21 of them are starts, none are off the bench. Daisen Maeda, this is interesting. He's got more appearances than anybody. 23 appearances for the season, i.e. he's featured in every game, but only 13 are starts and 10 are sub-appearances, so it's an interesting make-up there. Matt O'Reilly, we've covered Matt O'Reilly a wee bit tonight. He's got 22 appearances, 21 starts and just 1 sub-appearance. That shows how important he has already become to this Ange Postecoglou side, regardless of the Callum McGregor situation and the fact he stepped in there. Matthew will be pleased to hear that Leah Labada is also high up there. He's got 22 appearances, but it's an absolute split, 11 starts, 11 sub. But you'll also be happy that Greg Taylor is high on the list. He's got 20 appearances, 17 starts and 3 subs. So, I mean, those players, for a variety of different reasons, they play such a huge part and it bears out in those stats.
Absolutely. None more so than Greg Taylor. I think he has been phenomenal for us at the start of the season. Interesting what you say about Maeda, someone, lacking technical ability, featuring in every game. Quite an interesting viewpoint for the manager there.
Shots fired.
But no, I'm not surprised. I mean, it's very obvious why the manager likes Maeda. Industry, taking the game to the opposition, defending for the front, all those types of things. Clearly a very, very fit guy as well. And I think the point in O'Reilly, I would really highlight about those 21 starts is the difference in O'Reilly's fitness this season comparative to last season as well. You can see that's an area that's really improved and has allowed him to flourish this season because he's played such a pivotal role for us, especially in the absence of Callum McGregor recently. So I mean that shouldn't be forgotten. All those stats that we've thrown about up to this point, to do it without arguably probably our best and most consistent
most
player,
anyway.
It is unreal. So those guys have been pivotal, and Abada continues to be just that absolute conundrum of a player. He sometimes you're like, "Wee man, what you doing?" Then he just does something absolutely magic the next minute, and he pops up with a goal, pops up with an assist. Just an absolute maverick.
His finish last week against Dundee United was sheer class, to make it 4-2. He's then had a brilliant chance on Saturday where him and Jota played a 1-2. Jota's backheeled it into his path. He's about 7 yards out with a whole goal and it hits the wrong side of his foot and screws it away.
Where's his right foot there? He has his left, and it's a good 4 or 5 yards past the post.
It's exactly what Miff's saying. He's got it all in his locker. But it's great to have him there doing his thing. A really interesting one for you, James, in terms of the appearance stats. So Georgios Giakoumakis, 21 appearances for Celtic so far this season, only 7 starts, 14 of them are off the bench. Kyogo, 20 appearances but 17 starts and only 3 off the bench. And if you're ever unsure who Ange's number 1 striker is, then that tells you.
I don't think there's any debate on that. I think Ange sets his football out to suit a player like Kyogo. Even on Saturday, you saw some of the slick pass that was going on, and it got him through for his 1-on-1. That's Ange's football. We can play it lots of different ways. We can play it to ways that suit Giakoumakis, but his go-to is fast passing, intricate moves, and slipping in your striker, and that's Kyogo all over.
Yeah. Miff's mentioned a couple of guys who had the big impacts, Greg Taylor, Leah Labada, but who's been your player of the season so far? So those lads that have been mentioned, Carter Vickers, he's obviously had some less appearances due to his injury. Hatate, man of the match on Saturday again. Who's the main guys for you so far?
It's hard to leave Hatate out, it really is. I would say there's 3. I'll put them in 3-2-1 order.
Just to watch your airtime.
Matt O'Reilly, just for his versatility.
Sorry, coming in at third, Matt O'Reilly.
Matt O'Reilly.
Yep.
Versatility, responsibility, taking leadership for that McGregor type role, performed so well under a lot of pressure.
It's like Dr. Fox doing the charts back in the day, Miff. In at 2, James?
In at 2, GT3.
GT3, yeah.
He's been outstanding. And this time last year, I'd have punted him. Really would have. Just wasn't a fan, didn't think he was adapting. His fitness levels are ridiculously higher.
Yeah,
I think the way he gets up and down the pitch now, the way he inverts, and it's good having that, something slightly different in Bernabeu, but also a bit of pressure for competition for him. And I think that's really helped his game. Mm-hmm. He's certainly really focused in a kind of Ralston way. He's on it. we haven't for in at one new entry, and we haven't seen half of him yet. Haksabanovic.
Ah, really?
Yeah. Just for you're only now starting to see what we saw him like 15 minutes. Was maybe even Shakhtar was his debut. Shakhtar away.
He got a start away to Shakhtar. I'm sure.
No Real. Did they not come off the bench against Real?
He maybe played a league game or something. He was due to play against Livy.
No, was it Ross County League game? Ross County League game.
Yeah.
When it was his cameo, remember?
Yeah. And even just in that wee cameo, like, oh, there's something there. And we're seeing more and more each week. The goal they scored on Saturday is outstanding. We haven't seen half of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Saturday's finish was, there's only a certain amount of players that can do that. Miff, I don't know if you've listened to the post-match. You should have, but you probably haven't.
Busy man.
Myself and James are discussing it. Again, the post-match is always taken from what we see at the game in real time. And I described Haksabanovic's goal as a toe poke because I didn't quite see the class and I didn't see from where I'm sitting, it was impossible to see the curve on it. I've since watched the highlights, of course I have, and the paws are up, Miff. I've got that all wrong. It was, I thought it was a good finish. It was a phenomenal finish.
It wasn't half, and even from, I was at the other end of the ground and I could see what a classy finish it was. But
better angle.
Yeah, listen, I think James is right. He's just a player, and I think with a bit more bedding in, settling in still to do, you remember many appearances with you've had, maybe about 12, 13, something like that. A bit of time spent with the team down in Oz, as Ange has said.
As he said.
Yep, I think he's get the speedos packed, the big man. Bit of time spent down in Oz, a bit more time spent with the team, bit more time working with the team. It's a frightening thought to think he's got to come back just even a wee bit sharper than he's already left. So a player I just love watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great to see. I mean, so it's quite an out there pick as a man of the season so far. Are you somewhere different, Miff? Is it Taylor for you? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Greg Taylor, Rio Hatate, Cameron Carter-Vickers.
Yeah, all have played a huge part.
I'm going 1, 2, 3 just to be different. I mean, Taylor has featured very heavily. He is the self-confessed, according to the Daffabet teammates thing with him in Turnbull.
I watched that.
Self-confessed moaner.
Yeah.
And I just think he's the type of guy you need in your team. He's played that position that the manager needs him to play, both him and honourable mention to Ralston for that as well, as we've done many times in the programme before. But I think Taylor just seems to have taken his own personal game to the next level. Rio Hatate, I think we're only seeing a quarter of what that boy's capable of, and I just think he's outstanding. It infuriates me because I don't think he knows how good he is. I just don't. The things that lad can do on a football park, and the comparison I'm going to make, I made it in Saturday. I don't think we've seen a more naturally talented footballer since Lubomir Moravcik at Celtic Park than Rio Hatate. And the reason I say that is just because I get the same feeling when I watch Hatate that I did with Moravcik, that anything could happen. You don't know what way he's got to go. You don't know what foot he's going to hit it with. He's just so naturally gifted. That lad, he could be anything he wants to be.
You might be saying the same things. He only played professional football for like 3 years. He came out of a uni development programme, didn't he?
Yeah, so he'd special permission. I was reading about this earlier on. So in Japan, he was given, I think it's called something like special player status, which means you can continue your university studies but play in the J League. So he played with Kawasaki Frontale. But he basically had 2 years, or just about 2 years of professional experience before coming to Celtic. So he is still absolutely in the infancy of his career. And to Miff's point, the sky's the limit with a guy like that.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think you're right. It's just we're seeing about a quarter of him. The way he pulled that ball out of the sky on Saturday.
I was going to get to it. So out with his work for the first goal, which is great. Getting it to the byline and cutting it across for Turnbull. He's involved in the 1-2 for Haksabanovic for the winner. Yeah, in the middle of the park, there's a ball coming out the sky
under pressure.
Oh, and he just takes this touch with inside his foot and just lifts it over the guy and just buys himself so much time. And it's like Haksabanovic's goal, there's only certain players can do some of the things he does, and yeah, it's exciting to have him here at such a young age, and who knows where he's going to go. Yeah,
that is going to be the trick, is so you need to be bringing in, if Haksabanovic is the next Jota, for talking sake, then we need to be thinking about who's the next Hatate and so on and so forth, and then eventually the youth team starts to fulfil those gaps as well, because there's going to be attention on these guys for sure. I can't believe he's not at the World Cup. Can't believe that.
I know, and there, there's obviously he's got time in his hands. I think he's 24 years of age, and he might be somewhere close to his peak by the time the next one comes around. But you'd have to question the talent that must be around Japan if
they've got to be an outside bet.
If Hatate's not going and Kyogo's not going. Moving on from all of that, just a quick one for you lads. I've got the stats here on who's the most subbed player at Celtic from the season so far. I've got the two most subbed players actually.
Off.
Yep, who's been taken off most?
Really?
Kyogo.
Reo Hatate.
Well, he does tire.
He plays such an important part in the team, but he's had 18 starts and in 16 of them he's been taken off. Matt O'Reilly is around there somewhere. I'll get that stat because I was looking at O'Reilly's numbers as well.
I believe my Dr. Fox countdown there was hijacked as well because I hadn't said my bit on Vickers, but it's fine.
Feel free.
No, it's fine. It's gone. Moment's gone, Tino.
Fair enough. Matt O'Reilly, he's been subbed off 12 times, but more than that, James, you mentioned him there, Kyogo Furuhashi, he's been taken off 15 times from his 17 starts. It's interesting, isn't it? But again, it feeds into this whole thing. It's not about subs at Celtic, it's about utilising your squad.
What I would say there, I've actually just shot my own point down when I said about O'Reilly getting fitter and then said he would be the most subbed. But with Kyogo, that I think that's purely because how many minutes have Kyogo and Giacomakis spent in the pitch together? No very many. I know he's tried them a couple of times in different games, but maybe 3-4 games maximum they'd have actually been on the pitch at the same time.
It's 2 or 3.
So that's an obvious one. I think for me, Kyogo's just earned the right to be the man. He just keeps scoring.
Yeah.
Giacomakis in recent weeks, when he's had his chance to come on, has maybe dipped, but then you could understand why, because he was starting, scoring, and then still found himself on the bench. But I think Ange is very much body-minded when it comes to these things. Horses for courses. He will pick on that day what he feels is the best team.
Yeah, I think we know that from Ange. He's not a manager that's, in any way kind of sympathetic to things. He picks the best team for the occasion.
Birthday, bench.
Yeah, exactly. Greg Taylor.
That's how it be. Just a very small point. I know it's a matter of intrigue for you guys, possibly for the listeners. I don't know.
We'll find out.
But remember, there was somebody in the group chat that still wasn't convinced me, Ange.
Oh, your group chat?
No, my group chat.
Yes.
Aye.
What's he saying now?
Just see the whole European campaign, it just slightly...
He's on board?
Again, where he was questioning things. But making it sound like he was still on board, but clearly you could see with the things.
Maybe if it was not for him.
Mm-hmm. And just to let you know, he was at that Lightning Seeds gig. The man was there. You have seen that man.
You're lucky that they tell
you don't want to name the name?
You've seen that man. Absolutely not. I couldn't possibly out him.
Couldn't out him. Fair enough.
I know he listens and he'll be very annoyed that I've mentioned
it sounds like, even if he is, that they were a great bunch of lads. So, yeah.
Very kind words, James. Last point, or last stats, should I say, on the playing squad. So top goal scorer, obviously, is a very important metric. You're right, Miff, Kyogo can't stop scoring. 11 goals in total, 10 in the league, 1 in the League Cup. Second is... you take too long with these things.
Abada.
Yep, Liel Abada, 9 goals, 7 in the league, 2 in the League Cup. Then it's Giacomakis with 8, 6 in the league, 1 in the League Cup, and 1 in the Champions League, so different levels. And then you've got Jota on 7, 5 in the league, and 2 in the Champions League. Big player for big games. The other interesting thing about the scorers, though, is that we've got 15 different scorers, James, throughout the squad, and that includes guys like James Forrest, who's chipped in with 5 already. So how important is that overall, that we're getting goals all across the park?
I'd like to see some stats on that across Europe, teams that win their respective championships, that if you spread the goals throughout the team and you have, potent strikers as well, the chances of you winning are pretty high, and that's what we've been doing, Yeah. What was the scorers last year? It was ridiculously high. Like, was it not everyone apart from Starfield got a goal last year?
Starfield got one. He managed to get one, did it?
This year.
Or was that this year?
Yeah.
I think it was Starfield, Hart and someone else, but
McCarthy.
But less fringy kind of thing, a main player. Anyway, we're spreading the goals throughout consistently, and that's just a big thing. And I think it's a big Ange thing as well.
Yeah, it's encouraging, isn't it, Muff?
Oh, but I think that's, like James says, it's a feature of prominent teams. You need to have goals from all over the pitch. And you mentioned there James Forrest coming in, scoring a hat-trick. Who would have thought we would have been speaking about that at the start of the season, that he would have been coming on the game or featuring in a game and scoring a hat-trick? Ange just seems to have that knack of picking the right players at the right time. It's a sign of a good manager.
Yeah, he knows exactly when his squad's ticking, and that's the thing as well. We've spoken about as fans, we just do not have the data. We do not see what Ange sees. So from game to game, and we'll speculate, we'll talk about, lineups in our pre-match shows, but Ange's got all the answers to all the questions, and so far so good in terms of what he's been going with this season. So obviously quite a lot of, I suppose, information, stats and different things covered there around the 23 games of the season so far. But just to wrap this section up, keen to hear your lads' final thoughts on this first part of the season, and also what you think might come of the second part.
Well, I'm just very, very happy, to be honest with you. It's been a continuation of last season, an improvement in last season, you could actually say. I think more often than not, we've really played our football. Past couple of games towards the break, I think maybe the intense schedule was catching up on the players a wee bit in terms of that free-flowing football. But I think what also comes with that is teams are a bit more wary of you. Teams are then thinking, I mean, when you think back to the Ross County game in particular, 10 men behind the ball, they never really did any attacking intent whatsoever. So it's difficult playing against that lack of space. But and on the whole, delighted with the manager, delighted with the squad, and feel that despite the exit, there has been genuine progress in Europe. So more of the same, please, guys.
Yeah, probably yourself, James. Where do you stand?
It's just the next phase. We're looking at it season by season, but Ange will be looking at that as a line that reaches into when he's happy with the team and it's challenging and winning any game it comes up against. And that might be next year when we step into the Champions League, because we know we can now take the games to these teams. It's just a matter of finishing them off. So, when you go if you want to?
No.
You've done it now. So
no, it was involuntary movement.
Okay. So it's just that progress that the Biff is talking about. There's going to be something interesting happens within the next 2 months, which is the next evolution of our education as Celtic fans under Ange. So we're learning performance over results. We're going to learn that the talent is going to move on, and it's got to rotate with the new players coming behind that. I think we'll lose at least one in January, a big one, like Juranovic type player. And I think 2 or 3, maybe 4 others will come under serious pressure with offers, and we'll be having to make decisions on not now if we can get away with it.
Yeah, we've seen a lot and experienced a lot under Ange in what year and a half or so he's been in, but we've yet to experience losing a fan's favourite. Guys have moved on, and we're, Chris Julian and various other periphery players have now left the club. This will be the test of the trust between Ange and the fans as well. But, I think generally speaking, we in this room would be in agreement that if Ange thinks it's okay to move somebody on, then it's okay.
He won't move a player on if it's going to set him back to where we were against Leverkusen away last year, where the chasm between the player coming off and the player coming on is that vast. If he's got cover, or if someone has gone from where they were 2 years ago to where they are today, Tony Ralston, then he's comfy. We need to just watch what's behind Ralston, for example. Who's covering that gap. So only if he's comfy, only if Ange's comfy with that gap, will it happen.
If Ange's comfy, you're comfy.
Always.
Chasm, like it. Superb, James.
5 letters, mate.
Superb. No, still small word, big
impact.
Yeah. So as I say, over the piece, I think we've all agreed it's been a wee bit up and down the 23 games, particularly with regard to the European involvement. But I think by and large we're in agreement here that it's been wholly positive, and we can only now look forward to the second part of the season. So the guys will get a good break. They're obviously playing a couple of games down in Oz, as you say, Miff. We play Sydney FC on Thursday at 8:45 in the morning, by the way.
Lovely.
Getting up for that and taking a day off. Half day at work because I'm watching the Sydney Cup. And on Sunday it's even earlier, depends how you want to look at it. It's at 3:45 in the morning. So rather than get up early, just stay up late.
So is that a Saturday any Sunday morning?
Yeah, so that's a challenge, Miff. If you can stay up to 3:45.
Do we know who's broadcasting?
I've no idea. Celtic TV have got it.
Yeah.
And there are other ways to watch it. So
moving swiftly on.
But only use Celtic TV.
Yeah. But great to hear the thoughts that you have on the 23 games so far. And as I say, exciting times ahead throughout the rest of the season.